Welcome to Rise and Thrive Stories. Stories that inspire us all, and this is today's story. New York was a city built on movement. Lights flickered like restless thoughts, sirens wailed like unspoken fears, and people walked fast enough to leave their mistakes behind, at least temporarily. The city carried 1,000 secrets at once, each hidden beneath its towering skyline. Among those secrets lived Adrian Miller, a man who believed he had everything under control. Adrian had built a life he thought was stable. He had a steady job, a modern apartment in Brooklyn, and a wife he adored with all his soul. Emily had been the joy of his existence, a spark that brightened his ordinary days. He trusted her more than he trusted himself. And trust, he would later learn, was the most fragile thing in the world. Daniel Foster, Adrian's colleague and friend, had entered their lives with charm and ease. He was successful, confident, and respected, everything people admired. But ambition has sharp teeth, and Daniel learned early in life how to bite without leaving marks. He knew how to win deals, opportunities, and hearts that did not belong to him. The night of the betrayal arrived without warning. While the city roared outside their apartment window, Adrian stood frozen, his world collapsing in a single moment. The truth he uncovered that night would carve a wound so deep that even New York's noise couldn't drown the echo. From that moment forward, his life divided into two eras, before the betrayal, and after. Before we get into the story, let's subscribe and mention where you came from in the comments column. Adrian Miller stood beside the tall glass window of his Manhattan office, staring at the city buzzing below. Morning sunlight bounced off the skyscrapers, turning the streets into rivers of gold. It should have been a normal day, meetings, deadlines, routine. Yet an unexplained heaviness settled in his chest, as if the universe was whispering a warning he couldn't hear clearly. He fixed the collar of his shirt, trying to shake off the feeling. Just then, Daniel Foster walked into the room holding 2 cups of coffee. Daniel's presence was as polished as always, sleek brown hair, tailored suit, and a smile that could make anyone lower their guard. Adrian appreciated the gesture. They had worked together for years, and he considered Daniel not just a colleague, but a friend. Meanwhile, across the city in their modern Brooklyn apartment, Emily Miller sat at her desk reviewing design drafts for a boutique client. She looked effortlessly stunning, black hair cascading over her shoulders, blue eyes focused behind stylish glasses, her posture elegant and poised. She lived for moments like this, creating, imagining, turning beauty into reality. Her phone buzzed. A message appeared on the screen. "Daniel, can we meet at noon? I want your opinion on the new project." Emily bit her lip, a faint smile forming, a smile she never showed Adrian anymore. It was the kind of smile that could burn a marriage without even trying. Their first real interaction happened months earlier. Emily had joined Adrian at a networking dinner, where Daniel was also present. Adrian proudly introduced her, praising her design talent. Daniel shook her hand, and something unspoken passed between them, a spark, small but undeniable. After that night, Daniel began requesting Emily's input for office presentations and client materials. Adrian saw nothing wrong. He wanted Emily to succeed, to be recognized. He didn't realize he was opening a door that should have stayed locked. In Daniel's office, Emily often stood beside him reviewing design concepts. Their ideas blended seamlessly, their conversations flowed easily, and the distance between their shoulders grew smaller each time they worked together. Sometimes their hands brushed over the same paper without meaning to. But forbidden things have a way of growing quietly. What started as admiration shifted into curiosity. Curiosity shifted into tension. And tension, in the wrong place, becomes temptation. Emily knew she shouldn't feel anything. She was married. She had chosen Adrian, built a home with him, shared dreams of the future. Yet Daniel made her feel seen in ways she hadn't felt in years, as if he understood parts of her that Adrian overlooked without meaning to. Daniel saw the opening, and he never wasted opportunities. Adrian didn't notice the signs at first. How could he? Love blinds even the sharpest minds. Emily had always been warm, affectionate, and expressive. But slowly, almost too slowly to detect, her warmth faded. Their conversations shortened. Her laughter at his jokes became polite instead of genuine. She spent more time working late. More time meeting clients. More time outside than home. Adrian tried to justify everything. She was growing professionally. She was busy. She was tired. He loved her enough to give her space. But one evening, he returned home early and found Emily sitting on the couch, staring at her phone with a smile she quickly hid when she heard the door. He had seen that smile before, long ago, when she used to smile like that at him. A sting shot through his chest, but he forced himself to ignore it. "Who were you texting?" he asked lightly. "Just clients," she answered too fast. Something inside Adrian twisted, but he wasn't ready to admit why. Daniel was persuasive. He knew how to place words like delicate bait. He complimented Emily's ideas, praised her ambition, listened to her frustrations, and filled her with attention she didn't realize she had been craving. One afternoon, during a project review, Daniel leaned closer than necessary. Emily felt her heart skip, not out of romance, but from the thrill of being desired. It was dangerous, yet she didn't step away. He touched her hand briefly, intentionally, and she didn't pull back. "Emily," he whispered, "you deserve more than you're getting." "What do you mean?" she asked softly. "You're brilliant. Beautiful. Underappreciated. Anyone would be lucky to have you." The room grew unbearably quiet. Emily's breath trembled. She knew she should walk away, but she also knew she wouldn't. That was the moment the betrayal truly began, not in a bed, not in a kiss, but in the silent permission of a heart turning toward someone it wasn't meant to. Adrian sensed Emily drifting, so he tried to reconnect. He planned a weekend getaway to the countryside, something they used to love. He cooked her favorite meals, left small notes in her bag, even cut back on overtime to spend more evenings with her. But Emily's heart was already split in two. "Maybe next month," she told him when he suggested the trip. "I'm too busy," she said when he asked for dinner together. "Not tonight," she whispered when he reached for her in bed. Adrian lay awake many nights staring at the ceiling, asking himself what he had done wrong. He loved her deeply, but love is not always enough to hold someone who is already leaving. Meanwhile, Daniel sent Emily messages late into the night. "Are you thinking about me?" "Most nights," Emily replied. Adrian never checked her phone. Trust was his fatal flaw. The day it finally crossed the line was rainy, New York drenched in gray. Emily had a design consultation in Daniel's office. They worked closely, the tension palpable, their breaths too quick, their eyes meeting too often. At one point, Daniel stepped behind her, guiding her hands on the design tablet. His chin nearly touched her shoulder. Emily shivered, not from fear, but from surrender. "Emily," he whispered, voice low. She turned her head slightly. Their lips brushed. The world blurred. The rain hammered against the windows as they kissed, slow at first, then desperate. It was a kiss filled with hunger, guilt, and inevitability. When it ended, Emily stepped back, trembling. "This is wrong," she whispered. Daniel cupped her face. "Then tell me to stop." But she didn't. Emily began crafting lies with disturbing ease, smooth, effortless lies that slid off her tongue like she had practiced for years. She told Adrian she had late client work, team revisions, or sudden deadlines. He believed every word, he had no reason not to. But guilt began haunting her. At night, she cried quietly in the bathroom, splashing water on her face so Adrian wouldn't hear. During the day, Daniel held her close and told her she was doing nothing wrong, that she deserved happiness. Those contradictions tore her apart. Adrian noticed her red eyes and asked gently, "Are you okay?" Emily nodded quickly. "Just tired." He hugged her, unaware he was embracing someone who no longer fully belonged to him. The guilt didn't stop her. The affair continued. Emily told herself she would end things with Daniel. She repeated it every morning while doing her makeup, every night while brushing her hair. But whenever she saw him, whenever he sent a message, whenever he touched her arm, whenever he whispered her name, her resolve evaporated like mist. One evening, after a long day, Daniel texted her. "I need to see you. Tonight." Her pulse jumped. She knew it was reckless. She knew Adrian was watching her more closely now. But the longing, mixed with fear, thrill, and something she refused to name, dragged her into the shadows Daniel created. They met at a hotel bar near Central Park. The lights were dim, the air warm with murmured conversations and slow jazz. Daniel looked impossibly confident in his tailored suit, eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that made everything else vanish. "I can't keep doing this," she said weakly. Yet she was the one who took the seat beside him. Daniel rested a hand on her knee, thumb drawing slow circles. "Then don't think," he whispered. "Just feel." And against her better judgment, against her marriage, her vows, her guilt, Emily followed him upstairs. Adrian woke up alone. The clock read 2:17 a.m. Emily's side of the bed was cold. His chest tightened. She hadn't left a note, a message, anything. He tried calling her once, twice. No answer. He sat on the edge of the bed, breathing slowly, trying to convince himself not to panic. She could be working late. She could be with a friend. She could be stuck somewhere. 1,000 excuses floated through his mind, each one more fragile than the last. At 3:04 a.m., the door finally clicked open. Emily entered quietly, tiptoeing like a stranger in her own home. Her hair was messy, her lipstick faded. She froze when she saw Adrian awake, staring at her with hollow eyes. Words failed both of them. "Where were you?" his voice cracked. Emily swallowed, throat tight. "I needed some air." It wasn't even a good lie. Adrian felt his heart fracture in slow motion. He didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He simply nodded, defeated, and walked past her to the bathroom, closing the door softly behind him. Inside, he gripped the sink, fighting the urge to scream. There, in the quiet, Adrian finally understood. Something was missing. Something he could no longer ignore. Days passed with heavy silence. Emily became a ghost moving through rooms. Adrian became a man walking on broken glass. They spoke in short sentences, functional, empty, polite. But beneath that thin surface lay a war neither dared to address. Emily's double life grew deeper. She deleted messages faster. Cleared notifications. Hid conversations under obscure contact names. Each lie to Adrian made her chest tighter, but each meeting with Daniel made her heart race. She was trapped between the life she built and the life she desired. Daniel, meanwhile, pushed further. "Leave him," he said one night after they met in his apartment. "You don't love him anymore. You love me." Emily didn't answer. Love. She didn't know what she felt. But the danger, the thrill, it kept pulling her back. One afternoon, while Emily was in the shower, Adrian's eyes caught a reflection in the mirror, a bruise on her shoulder. Not an accident. Not something she could explain away. A bruise shaped by someone else's hands. The world stopped. His breath froze. This wasn't suspicion anymore. This was proof. Adrian planned a confrontation. He rehearsed it in the mirror, in the elevator, during quiet moments at work. He imagined himself asking calmly, demanding answers, begging for truth. But every time he faced Emily, the words turned to ash. One evening, he approached her while she was preparing dinner. "Emily, can we talk?" he asked softly. She stiffened, shoulders tightening. Without turning, she said, "Not now. I'm tired." He watched her slice vegetables with precise, mechanical movements, the movements of someone who wanted to be anywhere but with him. His chest ached. He stepped closer. "Emily, please. I just need to understand." She inhaled slowly, the kind of breath someone takes before running. "I can't do this right now," she said, placing the knife down. And just like that, she walked away, leaving him rooted in place. Adrian stood alone in the kitchen, hands trembling. He realized something bitter. He couldn't confront her because he feared the truth more than the lie. And Emily feared the truth because she had already chosen her path. Daniel was growing bolder. More possessive. More certain of the future he wanted with Emily. He booked a corner table at a rooftop lounge overlooking the glittering city. When she arrived, he greeted her not with a smirk, but with unexpected seriousness. "You can't keep living two lives," Daniel said. "I want you with me. Not in secret. Not in shadows." Emily swallowed hard. The cold wind brushed her hair, but Daniel's gaze burned hot. "I don't know if I can," she confessed. "Adrian, he's been good to me. He doesn't deserve." "He'll survive," Daniel interrupted. "People do." The callousness in his tone made her chest tighten. She suddenly remembered the first time she met Adrian, how safe he felt, how gentle he was, how sure she had been about their future. But Daniel reached across the table, taking her hands. "You were meant for more than a quiet life. You were meant for passion, ambition, fire." And just like that, the guilt faded a little. The seduction of Daniel's words wrapped around her like silk. Adrian could no longer live in uncertainty. The silence between him and Emily was becoming unbearable, a quiet poison that seeped into every moment. One afternoon, while Emily was at work, Adrian sat by their bedroom window, staring at the city below, replaying every strange moment of the last months. He knew something was terribly wrong. He also knew he was done pretending nothing was happening. His phone buzzed. A message from Mark. "I saw Emily near Midtown. Thought she said she was working from home?" Adrian felt his stomach twist. His palms went cold. Every instinct he had warned him, this is the moment everything changes. He didn't want to spy on her. He wasn't that man. But love, real love, makes even the gentlest heart desperate. So he took a breath, grabbed his jacket, and followed the faint thread of suspicion unraveling in front of him. He reached Midtown 30 minutes later, scanning sidewalks, cafes, hotel entrances. Then he saw her. Emily, stepping out of a hotel lobby, her hair wind-tossed, her blouse slightly undone, her expression dreamy in a way he hadn't seen in months. And beside her was Daniel, walking close enough that their shoulders brushed. Adrian's heart didn't shatter. It simply stopped. He didn't confront them. He didn't scream. He didn't follow. He just stood on the opposite sidewalk, swallowed whole by the truth he desperately wished he'd never found. Emily came home that night humming softly, unaware that Adrian was seated in the living room, waiting in the dark. When she turned on the light, her smile faltered. His face was pale, eyes rimmed red, not with anger, but with heartbreak so deep it blurred into something unrecognizable. "Where were you?" he asked quietly. Her pulse spiked. "At work." "No," Adrian interrupted. "Try again." Emily stood frozen. The room felt small, suffocating. Adrian stood slowly, his voice shaking. "I saw you. With him." Her breath caught. A single second stretched into forever. She could lie. She could deny everything. But Adrian's eyes, blue, weary, wounded, left no escape. "Adrian." "I'm sorry," she whispered. The words hung heavy between them, offering no comfort, no explanation. He stepped closer, searching her face for something, remorse, love, hesitation. But all he saw was fear and confusion. And that realization broke him more than the betrayal itself. "I loved you," Adrian whispered. "You were my whole world." Emily's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't reach for him. She didn't step forward. She just stood there. That alone told Adrian everything he needed to know. For days, the apartment felt like a battlefield, quiet, cold, and full of invisible scars. Emily moved through the rooms like a ghost, unsure of what she wanted, unsure of who she had become. Daniel's messages kept coming, each one more insistent. Leave him. Be with me. You deserve more. But after seeing Adrian's pain she caused, Emily began questioning everything. Was Daniel truly love, or just escape? Was passion worth the destruction of a man who had never done anything but love her? Adrian, meanwhile, started packing a suitcase. Not because he wanted to leave, but because he didn't know how to stay. He folded shirts with shaking hands, each movement a quiet surrender. When Emily walked into the bedroom and saw the open suitcase, her breath caught. You're leaving? He didn't look at her. I don't know what else to do. She stepped forward, voice trembling. Adrian. I never wanted to hurt you. Then why did you? He whispered. The question stunned her. She had no answer, only tears that burned down her cheeks. Emily sought clarity, but Daniel offered only pressure. He invited her to his penthouse, a luxurious space of glass and steel high above the city. When she arrived, he greeted her with a confident smile, pulling her into his orbit like gravity. What's wrong? He asked as he poured her a drink. Adrian knows, she whispered. Daniel didn't flinch. Good. Then you can stop pretending. Emily stared at him, at the perfection, the charm, the intoxicating confidence she once found irresistible. Now it felt suffocating. When he touched her cheek, she felt nothing. No spark. No fire. Only the weight of her mistakes. I don't know if I'm ready, she said quietly. Daniel's smile faded. Ready for what? Leaving someone you don't love anymore? His tone sharpened, revealing the edge beneath the charm. She stepped back instinctively. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Emily, don't make this complicated. For the first time, she saw him clearly. Not a savior. Not a soulmate. A man who wanted to own her more than love her. Fear crept into her chest. Adrian spent a sleepless night walking through the city. He passed couples holding hands, laughing, living lives he now envied. He realized that staying in limbo, loving someone who didn't love him back, was slowly destroying him. By sunrise, he made a decision that felt like shattering his own ribs. He would let her go. Back at the apartment, he wrote a letter with trembling hands. Not to beg, not to accuse, but to say goodbye with dignity. He left the envelope on the dining table, then zipped his suitcase and grabbed his keys. When he opened the front door, Emily stood there, eyes red, hair messy, breath uneven. Adrian, she whispered. He froze. She looked at the suitcase, then at him, and panic filled her expression. You're leaving? He nodded. I can't stay in a home where I'm a stranger. Her lip trembled. I don't want to lose you. His voice broke. Then why didn't you choose me? Emily had no answer. And Adrian knew then that leaving was the only way to survive. Adrian left the apartment without looking back. Emily watched him walk away through the hallway's dim lighting, each step a cruel echo of her choices. When the door finally clicked shut, her knees buckled, and she collapsed onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. The silence in the apartment was deafening. No more soft footsteps. No gentle laughter. No warmth. Just emptiness, a void she created with her own hands. She pressed her palms to her face, realizing too late that Daniel had never filled her heart the way Adrian once did. Across the city, Adrian checked into a small hotel. The room was cold, sterile, unfamiliar, yet he preferred it over the home that no longer felt like his. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the folded letter he wrote Emily. He wondered if she had read it. He wondered if she cried. He wondered if any of it mattered anymore. Emily finally opened the letter hours later. Adrian's handwriting was soft, shaking, full of pain. I hope you find the happiness you were searching for. Even if it's not with me. She pressed the letter to her chest, tears staining the ink. Daniel texted her again. "Where are you? Come to me." Emily stared at the message. And for the first time, she didn't reply. Emily sat alone in the dim kitchen, her fingers trembling as she scrolled through her phone. The walls felt like they were closing in. She had convinced herself she could control everything, the lies, the secrets, the dual life, but now everything was collapsing. Adrian's silence had grown sharper and colder, and Daniel's demands had become suffocating. The illusion of control vanished, leaving her trapped in a storm of her own making. Meanwhile, Adrian sat in his car outside the house, the engine still running. He stared at the front door, feeling the gravity of what he had to do next. He was done collecting puzzle pieces, done studying shadows. Now he finally had the truth, and the truth demanded confrontation. His heart hurt, heavy with betrayal, but his resolve no longer wavered. Tonight, the lies would end. Across the city, Daniel celebrated his illusion of victory. He believed he had dismantled Adrian's stability, replaced it with chaos, and claimed Emily as if she were a prize he had earned. But arrogance creates blindness, and Daniel was blind to the coming storm. He underestimated the man whose world he shattered. The night stood still, charged with the electricity of something irreversible. All three of them, Adrian, Emily, Daniel, were approaching the same breaking point. And once crossed, there would be no turning back. Adrian entered the house quietly, but Emily still flinched when she heard the door shut. For a moment, neither spoke. The space between them felt like a battlefield, silent, cold, but full of unspoken devastation. Adrian finally broke the silence. "How long?" he asked. No shouting, no anger, just a single question that cut deeper than any scream. Emily's breath caught. Her rehearsed excuses vanished. She looked at the man she once promised honesty to, and tears welled in her eyes. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she whispered, voice cracking. But Adrian didn't want apologies. He wanted truth. "How long?" The second time, the question trembled with pain. Daniel's name hung unspoken in the room, but its presence dominated everything. Emily's silence was confession enough. Adrian stepped back, feeling the ground shift beneath him. Betrayal no longer lived in shadows, it stood in the center of the room. Every memory, every promise, every plan, they all shattered like fragile glass. Emily reached for him, but Adrian stepped away. "Don't," he said quietly. And Emily realized something with horrifying clarity: she had not only betrayed him, she had lost him. Daniel stood confidently in his penthouse office, convinced he still had control. He dialed Emily's number with a smirk, expecting her desperation, expecting her to choose him now that Adrian had confronted her. But when she answered, her voice was colder than winter. "Daniel, stay away from me," she said. The words stunned him. Daniel laughed sharply, as if refusing to believe it. "He confronted you, didn't he? Good. Now you can finally stop pretending." But Emily's tone didn't change. "You manipulated me. You used me. I was stupid, but not anymore." Her voice broke at the end, but the resolve remained. It was over. For the first time, Daniel felt something new: fear. Not of losing Emily, but of losing control. He paced the room, anger rising. Adrian wasn't supposed to stand up to him. Emily wasn't supposed to walk away. His perfect strategy was crumbling, and his ego refused to accept defeat. He dialed again. Emily didn't answer. He slammed the phone on his desk, breath uneven. Daniel had lost the one thing he prized most: power. And a man like Daniel didn't lose gracefully. Emily broke down alone in her bedroom, tears spilling uncontrollably. She had destroyed her marriage, lost the man who loved her, and allowed herself to be manipulated by someone who cared only about winning. Shame and grief crushed her like a weight she couldn't bear. She whispered Adrian's name through sobs, knowing she no longer deserved forgiveness. Adrian, meanwhile, packed a small bag in the guest room. He moved slowly, not out of hesitation, but exhaustion. Love didn't disappear overnight, but trust had been murdered. And without trust, staying felt impossible. He paused, staring at his wedding ring. Removing it felt like tearing off a part of himself. Emily appeared at the doorway, face swollen from crying. "Please, don't leave." Her voice trembled, barely more than a whisper. Adrian looked at her with eyes full of pain, not anger. "I need space," he said softly. Emily reached out, but Adrian stepped back, avoiding her hand. It was the cruelest pain she had ever felt. He walked past her without another word. And Emily collapsed to the floor, sobbing into her hands. Daniel arrived at Emily's house uninvited, pounding on the door with fury. His mask was gone, no charm, no control, only desperation wrapped in anger. Emily opened the door only enough to block his path. "I told you not to come," she said firmly. Daniel forced a smile, but it was sharp and unstable. "You don't get to walk away from me." Emily's eyes hardened. "Watch me." Daniel tried to push the door, but she stopped him. For the first time, Emily saw him clearly, not as the man who had flattered her, but as the predator he truly was. "You never cared about me," she said. "You cared about winning." Daniel's composure cracked. "You think Adrian will take you back?" "After what you did," he sneered. Emily flinched, but lifted her chin. "Whether he does or not, it's none of your business." Her voice steady now. Daniel's rage ignited. He slammed his palm on the doorframe, inches from her face, but Emily didn't move. Lights flicked on across the neighborhood. Daniel realized he was losing, not just Emily, not just power, but the illusion of control he built his entire life on. He stepped back, trembling with anger. "You'll regret this," he hissed. Emily closed the door firmly, locking it. And Daniel was left standing alone in the cold night. Adrian checked into a small Airbnb outside the city. The quiet space felt alien after the emotional chaos at home. He sat on the bed, staring blankly at the wall, replaying every moment of his marriage, every laugh, every late-night conversation, every plan they made for the future. It all felt like ashes slipping through his fingers. Emily spent the night alone, curled on the couch, unable to sleep. She wrote a letter to Adrian, page after page of honesty she should have spoken months ago. She didn't expect him to forgive her. She only wanted him to know that her betrayal came from weakness, not lack of love. The irony tore at her, she destroyed the one person she never meant to hurt. Daniel isolated himself in his penthouse, drinking heavily as frustration grew into obsession. He couldn't accept losing. He repeated Emily's last words again and again, each repetition twisting deeper into his pride. The world he believed he controlled was slipping, and he didn't know how to exist without power. 3 hearts, broken, wounded, lost, drifted through the night, each paying the price for choices that had spiraled beyond their control. Morning arrived slowly, quiet and gray. Adrian returned to the house, not to reconcile, but to talk. Emily opened the door with swollen eyes and trembling hands. The silence between them felt softer than before, not empty but full of fragile truths. Adrian spoke first. "I don't know what the future looks like. But I came to hear your truth, fully." Emily nodded, tears falling again. She read him the letter she had written, every raw confession, every regret, every piece of herself she had long hidden. Adrian listened without interrupting. Pain filled his chest, but so did understanding. Broken doesn't always mean destroyed. When she finished, Emily whispered, "I will accept whatever you decide." Adrian breathed deeply. "I need time." "We both do. But I'm not walking away forever." For the first time in days, Emily inhaled without her chest tightening. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was hope. Far away, Daniel stared out his penthouse window, realizing he had lost everything worth having. His manipulation had left him with nothing but his own reflection staring back at him, empty, disappointed, alone. Adrian and Emily stood together at the doorway, unsure of what tomorrow would bring, but choosing, tentatively, painfully, to face it with honesty rather than illusion. Their story wasn't healed, and maybe never would be perfect. But for now, they were choosing to begin again. From this story, this is the moral message that we can take. Betrayal doesn't begin with the moment the truth is discovered, it begins with the moment honesty is avoided. When communication fails, trust weakens. And when trust breaks, even love cannot protect what remains. Adrian, Emily, and Daniel's story teaches us that every choice has consequences. Every lie has a cost. And every heart, no matter how strong, can be wounded by silence. Love is not destroyed in a single moment, it crumbles slowly when truth is withheld and desires are hidden in shadows. In the end, the story reminds us that relationships survive not because they are perfect, but because the people in them choose honesty over comfort, loyalty over temptation, and courage over fear. And when we fail to choose those things, we learn, painfully, that the hardest journey is rebuilding the trust we once took for granted. Thank you for watching. But don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more inspiring stories.